Hello guys, so I'm here today to do a reading for The Sorcerer's Apprentice, The Ruins of Gorlan. I will be reading chapter 18. With this I kind of just read it and talk about what I think about it, and yeah, that's it. Okay, let's get started. One couldn't help smiling to himself. Anything less like a ferocious charging wild boar he couldn't imagine. "How did you know he was there?" he asked Halt in a soft voice. The ranger shrugged. "Saw him a few minutes ago. You'll learn eventually to sense when someone's watching you. Then you know to look for them." Will shook his head in admiration. Halt's powers of observation were uncanny. No wonder people in the castle held him at such awe. "Now, then," Halt said sternly, "why are you skulking there? Who told you to spy on us?" The old man rubbed his hands nervously together, his eyes flicking from Halt's forbidding expression to the arrow tip, lowering now, but still knocked to the string on Will's bow. "Not spying, sir. No, not spying. I heard you coming, and thought you were a monster porker coming back." Holt's eyebrows drew together. "You thought I was a wild boar?" he asked. Again, the farmer shook his head. No, he grumbled. "Leastways, not once I saw you. But then, I wasn't sure you who you might be. Could it be bandits like—" "What are you doing here?" Holt asked. "You're not a local, are you?" The farmer, anxiously to please, shook his head once again. "Come from over Willow Tree Creek, I do," he said. "Been trailin' that porker and hoping to find someone as could turn him into bacon." Halt was suddenly vitally interested. He dropped the mock, severe tone in which he had been talking. "You've seen the boar, then?" he asked, and the farmer rubbed his hands again and looked fearfully around, as if nervous that the porker would appear from the trees any minute. "Seen him? Heard him? Don't want to see him no more. He's a bad un, sir, mark my words." Halt glanced back at the tracks again. "He's certainly a big one, anyway," he mused. "And evil, sir," the farmer went on. "That's has a rare devil of a temper in him. Why, he'd—" I don't really like when they do accents in books because it's really hard to understand what they're saying. "Why'd he'd soon tear up a man or a horse or have his breakfast, would he?" "So what did he have in mind for him?" Hall asked, then added, "What's your name, by the way?" The farmer bobbed his head and knuckled his forehead in salute. "Peter, sir. Salt Peter, they calls me, on account of I likes a little salt on my meat, I do." Oh, it's like the way they phrase it, I don't like it. Salt nodded. "I'm sure you do," he said patiently. "But what were you hoping to do about this boar?" Saltpeter scratched his head and looked a little lost. "Don't rightly know. Hoped maybe I'd find a soldier or a warrior or a knight to get rid of him. Or maybe a ranger," he added as an afterthought. Will grinned. Halt stood up from where he'd gone down on one knee to examine the tracks in the snow. He dusted a little snow from his knee and walked back to where Saltpeter stood, nervously shifting from one foot to another. "Has he been causing a lot of trouble?" the ranger asked, and the old farmer nodded rapidly several times. "That he has, sir. That he has. Killed 3 dogs. Oh. Tore up fields and fences he has. And as near as anything killed my son-in-law. When he tried to stop him. Like I said, sir, he's bad. Once again, it's spelled like apostrophe UN, and I know it's supposed to be one, but it feels weird. Holt rubbed his chin thoughtfully. He said, well, there's no question that we'd better do something about that. He looked up at the sun, sitting low to the horizon in the western sky, then turned to Will. How much daylight would you say is left, Will? Will studied the position in the sun. These days, Holt never missed an opportunity to teach him or question him or test his knowledge and developing skills. He knew it was the best to consider carefully before making an answer. Holt preferred accurate replies, not fast ones. A little over an hour, Will said. He saw Holt's eyebrows draw together in a frown and remembered that the ranger also disliked being answered with a question. Are you asking me or telling me? Holt said. Will shook his head, annoyed at himself. A little over an hour, he replied, more confidently. In this time, the ranger nodded in agreement. Correct. He turned to the old farmer again. Very well, Saltpeter. I want you to take a message to Baron Errold. Baron Errold? The farmer asked nervously. Holt frowned again. See what you've done, he said to Will. You got him answering questions with questions now. Sorry, Will mumbled, grinning in spite of himself. Holt shook his head and continued speaking to Saltpeter. That's right, Baron Errold. You'll find his castle a couple of kilometers along this track. Saltpeter peered under one hand, looking along the track, as if he could see the castle already. A castle, you say? In a wandering voice. I've never seen a castle. Holt sighed impatiently. Keep this old chatterbox mind on the subject was beginning to make him short-tempered. That's right, a castle. Now go to the guard at the gate. Is it a big castle? Asked the old fellow. It's a huge castle, Holt roared at him. Saltpeter bounded back in fright. He had a hurt look on his face. No need to bellow, young man, he said huffily. I were only asking is all. Once again, the words. No need. Oh, I already read that. Oops. Well then, stop interrupting me, said the ranger. We're wasting time here. Now, are you listening? Saltpeter nodded. Good. Holt continued. Go to the guard on the gate and say you have a message from Holt and Baron Errold. The look of recognition spread across the old man's face. Holt? He asked. Not the ranger Holt. Yes, replied Holt wearily. The ranger Holt. The one who led the ambush on Morgoth's wargals? Asked Saltpeter. The same, said Holt, in a dangerously low voice. Saltpeter looked around him. Well, he said, where is he? I'm Holt. This guy's dumb. The ranger thundered at him, placing his face a few centimeters from Saltpeter's as he did so. Again, the old farmer recoiled a few steps. Then he gathered his courage and shook his head in disbelief. No, he said definitely. You can't be him. Why, the ranger Holt is as tall as 2 men, and what? Oh, it's not real. Okay. is as tall as two men and as broad, a giant of a man. He is brave, fierce in battle he is. He couldn't be him. Holt turned anyway, trying to regain his temper. Will couldn't help the smile breaking out on his face again. I am Holt, said the ranger, spreading his words out so that Saltpeter couldn't make any mistakes. I was taller when I was young and a lot broader, but now I'm this size. He thrust his glittering eyes close to the farmer and glared at him. Do you understand? Well, if you say so, said Saltpeter. He still didn't believe the ranger, but there was a very dangerous gleam in Holt's eyes that warned him that if he was not to be wise to disagree any farther. Good, said Holt icily. Now tell the Baron that Holt and Will. Saltpeter opened his mouth to ask another question. Holt clamped his hand over the old man's mouth immediately and pointed to where Will stood beside Tug. That's Will there? Saltpeter nodded, his eyes wide over the hand that was clamped firmly over his mouth. Stopping any further questions or interruptions, the ranger continued. Tell him Holt and Will are tracking the wild boar. When we find its lair, we'll return to the castle. In the meantime, the Baron shall gather his men for a hunt tomorrow morning. He slowly took his hand down from the farmer's mouth. Have you got all that? The ranger asked. Saltpeter nodded carefully. Then repeat it back to me, Holt prompted. Go to the castle, tell the gate guard I have a message from you, Holt, for the Baron. Tell the Baron that you, Holt, and him, Will, are tracking a wild boar and find its lair. Tell him to have his men ready for a hunt tomorrow. Good, said Holt. He gestured to Will, and the two of them swung back into their saddles. Saltpeter stood uncertain on the track, looking up at them. Off you go, said Holt, pointing in the direction of the castle. The old farmer went a few paces then, and he nudged he was at a safe distance. He turned around and called back to the grim-faced ranger. I don't believe you know. Nobody grows shorter and thinner. Holt sighed and turned his horse away into the forest. Yay. Bye.